Hi, this is Riaz from Networks Learning. Welcome to Cisco Next Generation Firewall Training. In this video, we will see on how we can configure security intelligence, specifically with respect to the DNS. So in previous videos, we have covered other security intelligence features, including the intelligence for networks, IP addresses, and subnets. But in this video, we will cover how you can configure security intelligence for DNS purpose, for the security for DNS on your network. Here in security intelligence tab, you have the DNS policy. By default, the DNS policy, we have a default DNS policy, and you can edit this policy directly by clicking on this edit button, or you can go to the DNS policy directly from the policies section. And there are two default rules against the in default DNS policy. We have a global do not block list, or you can say that it's a white list for the DNS, and we have a block list, and you can also refer this as to a blacklist type, blacklist DNS list. As in my previous one of my previous videos of the security intelligence, I have covered how these feeds are fetched and what are the sources of these feeds. You can add your own feeds, or you can rely on the dynamic updates from the Cisco as well. So here you can add your own DNS entries in the form of text file with single line entry. In the DNS list and feeds, you can add your own feeds, but you can also use the dynamic DNS and URL intelligence feeds from the Cisco, and usually it is updated at a frequency of 2 hours. You can also change this frequency as well. So there are multiple actions against the DNS rules that you can configure specifically, and let me show you what are those and what are the meaning of those actions against the DNS policy. This is the default policy, and inside default policy we have multiple actions that we can configure against the policy. And let me configure a rule for you. This is the rule. You can name it over here, and there is an action against this domain not found. The domain not found, do not block, monitor, domain not found, drop, synchron. These are some of the actions that you can configure for a rule of the DNS policy, and these rules can be configured and these actions can be assigned to these rules based on the requirement. So DNS policy enables domain support for security intelligence, stores DNS queries for unknown malicious or unsafe domains. DNS policy consists of whitelist and blacklist sections. There are two sections over here: whitelist, do not block, blacklist, or blocklist. Rules to the actions determine ultimate handling of matching the DNS traffic. We have multiple actions. We cannot edit the default policy. We can add a rule and we can see the actions against them. We have a whitelist, passes traffic to the access control policy, monitor, or do not block. The monitor action, in monitor action, traffic is logged but still evaluated by other rules, means other access control policy rules will be already applied, but it will be monitored. It will not take any action. In sinkhole or in sinkhole means that the response will be sent with a random or with a fake IP address or with a sinkhole that you configure. It is a kind of response that you can configure manually at your end, and you can you know you can integrate that sinkhole action with some rule over here. The traffic will be dropped, and you can also configure to response with a fake IP address as well to sinkhole the traffic, against a malicious or a suspected DNS entry. Drop is the action that will drop the query or drop or the connection straight away, and domain not found is the action DNS response with DXDOMAIN. It's a kind of a response that a user will get when a domain is not found, and or if we configure a domain entry with a rule uh, with a rule of action domain not found. Do not block. It will not block, but it will pass all the traffic. Whitelist means passes the traffic to the access control policy if you configure a rule with the whitelist. If you are configuring it to monitor, it will monitor, but other policies will also be applied. And drop means traffic will be dropped straight away. And domain not found, DNS response with DX domain is sent to the user. Sinkhole is a DNS response with false IP address. That's all the actions that you can configure against these rules. Default DNS policy consists of blacklist and whitelist DNS entries fetched from the dynamic feed sources like Telos. You can add your own list as well. So in this scenario, we will implement our own DNS testing environment, and let me show you over here. I have my client machine connected on these switches from inside of the FTD, and on outside I have an edge router. An edge router is connected to my physical router, which is in this case is this one. On this router I have created DNS entries, and this is serving as DNS to the connected Pentlab network. I have created a DNS entry hack.com with 192.168.88.1 entry. From my LAN machine I can reach over here 192.168.88.1. I am unable to reach because in previous video I have configured this IP address as a malicious IP address in the security intelligence section over here. Here you can see. So I need to remove this IP address from here. Let me delete this. So it's deleted. Let me save this configurations. So in the DNS policy, which is over here, at DNS I need to create a DNS rule, or before creating a DNS rule, let me create a DNS feed entry inside the device object management. This is a hack.com. Okay, and let me create a new entry name rgs.com. rgs.com and hack.com. Now before moving on to next, we need to test these hack.com and rgs.com reachability from inside machine, so that we can check connectivity first, then we will implement the security intelligence DNS policy. previously I removed the IP address of physical router from this block list, and I saved the configuration, but I need to deploy the deploy to remove the previous configurations and to allow the reachability to the 192.168.88.1 IP address. So I have deployed. Once it's finished, I will be back and will move on to further process. So the deployment is completed, and now we should be able to reach to the IP address of 192.168.88.1. So here you can see we are able to reach to the outside IP address. So I have created two entries, hack.com and rgs.com. We will create a feed entry for DNS, and we will import it to the Ftd Firewall under the objects and object management, and then we will integrate that list at the security intelligence of the DNS at access control policies. So here I can add a list, which is list. This is RGS DNS test browse. So let me RGS test open. Upload. Number of DNS entries 2. Fake path RGS DNS test feed.txt. Okay, its name is RGS DNS test. Click on save. RGS DNS test list updated. You can see over here. Let me go back to the access control or DNS. At DNS we have this one is the default policy. We need to create another DNS policy. This is RGS DNS policy. Click on save. Inside this policy we have again two rules. Now we need to create a rule which in this case is DNS block. Just any kind of name that you can specify over here. I'm just giving the DNS block with an action of drop. Zone is inside, source zone is inside, and at DNS we can specify the dynamic or the static configured DNS entries list. Here is my created DNS list RGS DNS test. I will add to the rule, and on this selected item which contains two objects, and the action is dropped. Whenever the whenever the DNS entries will match against this list, the action will be dropped. We can also configure multiple actions with a sinkhole, with domain not found, and other things as well, but I will consider the drop action this time, and we can see other actions as well after configuring this, after testing this one. Click on OK. You can see the rule has gone into the block list as well, because the action is dropped. So click on save. Deployment. Actually there is no deployment. Let me configure access control policy settings. Inside access control policy you need to define the DNS policy. So the DNS policy should be changed to what we have created over here at security intelligence. You need to specify RGS DNS policy. Click on save. Click on deployment. and deploy the configurations. I'll be back once the deployment is completed and we will check the results. So the deployment is completed with our access control policy and DNS policy. We now have to verify the configuration, but before moving on to that, I will again show you the DNS policy and its integration with the access control policy. This is my DNS policy. Name of it is DNS blog with an action of drop inside zone, and DNS list is RGS DNS test containing 2 entries for DNS with DNS entries of hack.com and rgs.com. Both of these are blocked, so I will create another entry over here with networkslearning.com, and its IP address will be 192.168.88.1. And why I'm creating this one is to show you the correct working of the policy. We will be able to get onto this, but we won't be able to get on those policies. So that's why I am configuring this one over here. Click on apply, click on OK. Let me test from the access machine. First I will ping learning.com. So you can see I am able to get to the networkslearning.com, which is a configured DNS entry over my physical router, and it's being resolved against 192.168.88.1 IP address. So we have configured the rules on FTD for the DNS. Okay, this was our configuration. So let me test for those of the hack.com and rgs.com. Both of these domains are being considered as malicious and not a valid domains, and are being blocked at FTD end. So let me check with rgs.com. ping hack.com. So I am able to get the response. I am getting a response for the ICMP, but it should be blocked. I don't know why I am getting this response. NS lookup. Okay, you can see the DNS request is timeout. And let me check with hack.com. rgs.com. Or another way is to check with the help of the browser. It should resolve against the IP addresses. Let me check hack.com. Also rgs.com. Also networkslearning.com. You can see over here, this is my router. I am able to resolve against networkslearning.com, but I am not able to resolve line I was initiating the ICMP request. That's why I was able to get the response against ICMP. But when you go via browser, the complete DNS resolution takes place. That's why I am not able to get to hack.com, rgs.com, because they both are blocked at FTD Security Intelligence Not Engine, and Networks Learning is enabled. That's why I am able to get to the Networks Learning. So let me show you the logs at the FTD Firewall, FMC. At FMC we have analysis, connections, security, intelligence events. At security intelligence events, you can see over here there are multiple entries which are showing over here, but these are static. Let me change this duration of window. It's about 23 now. Okay, let me see security intelligence events. It's refreshing. You can see over here DNS block initiator 10.12.100 and going to 192.168.88.1, and security intelligence category RGS DNS test entries is matching with it, and action is blocked. So going into more packet detail, the action is blocked. Reason DNS block, initiator IP this, responder IP 88.1, security intelligence category which we configured, ingress inside outside is the egress interface, source port 64527 and destination is 53, and client is DNS, application risk very low, business relevance is very high, and DNS query is rgs.com. You can see over here, and it's blocked because of this security intelligence category. So that's how the DNS security intelligence works inside the FTD firewall. So at overview, you can also see over here the applications and threats and network blockage that are being blocked at the firewall. You can also see threats. I don't know it should consider it as a threat or what. Cautions by security intelligence. You can see over here as well RGS DNS test and the physical router, total connections, and traffic by security intelligence category. You can see over here. The category is also over here. Let me click on this one, RGS DNS test, and you can see the matching entries against this rule, DNS block, DNS block. So that's how you can test the security intelligence features of the Cisco Ftd Firewall at your network, and similarly you can configure based on your network requirement and your network policy. We have DNS policy, we have access control policy. Access control policy is the master of all policies. It integrates all the rest of the security intelligence and other policies with it. So inside security intelligence, we configured the DNS policy. Previously we configured the block list for networks. Now we configure the DNS policy, and we have also covered the pre-filter policy as well in this series in my previous videos. So that's how you can configure the security intelligence on FTD, and you can demonstrate it, and you can this will help you to better control uh, the security implementations in your network. Thanks for watching.